See if we get some folks in here tonight. What a busy day. Slide over here. Let's see if we can get, you guys can hear me loud and clear. There you guys are. We'll get a few in here. Tonight, I wanted to do, so we're working on a few episodes, and we're also working on the Scrum session stuff that we talked about a day ago. And we're going to try to get some updates for that as early as tomorrow, and I'm going to try to have a follow-up Scrum meeting to show our progress on that resource mining DB. So I'm excited about that. We got actually a lot of participation. There's folks wanting to contribute, development time and all that. So I'm setting up on waffle.io essentially a Kanban board. So I'm pretty excited to get that released out where folks can look at the progress being made on that and then see it reciprocate onto the site. So we'll, you guys will be able to see some of that action. And I'm going to minimize this right now because I got that going right now as a back loop. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk people through. I've had a ton of questions, especially with Black Friday coming up, and people are seeing the price of crypto rise. There's a big bump in, or a relatively nice bump in Ethereum pricing. Most of the alts are starting to get some life to them. So obviously the onslaught of emails and questions, and just seeing some of the comments that are coming across multiple different videos of folks saying, hey, I've seen some of your videos. I've seen them since May and June. Is this stuff still applicable? What is the no kidding components that I need if I want to build a rig? And the ranges of questions are across the board. They're coming in from like, my budget is $1,200. Can I still participate? I'm sub $1,000. Some people want to build farms. So there's a range of questions, and instead of trying to answer each one of those, what we're going to try to do tonight is look at the main components that are required in a mining rig. If you're new to this this genre, this is going to be great for you. If you're kind of been in it for a while, maybe it's some of that validation, some of your own. We'll look at some of the comments and stuff. Hopefully I'll have Miss BBT here soon. She's out and she'll be in and can help me answer some of the questions. So if you have some direct questions for this tonight, kind of hold off for a second, and we'll see. I'll have a point in time where we can answer some specific questions, but it should be still value add for folks that have been participating in mining and such too. So, I wanted to kind of go, I have the board behind me. I kind of started having let's see here. I was looking at my ranges here of where's too far. I think that's it. To make sure I'm not drawing out of scope here. But what I want to make sure is people understand what all goes into it. What's the right stuff to buy relative to our experience, and we can bring some of that stuff to you guys. So looks like we got some about 60 people. That's great. We'll go ahead and get started, and we'll kind of go through the main components of a mining rig. People can rewatch this. You guys can point to people if they're asking questions what we're doing, and just tell them at the beginning of the video we started it. So the primary components of a mining rig, by and large, if you're going to build a mining rig, really kind of centers around with what kind of graphics card you're going to go with, especially on the GPU side. We're going to talk GPU first, and then I may talk some ASICs discussions for folks that want to talk ASIC, but mainly it's predicated around, well, I would say first it's predicated around your budget. What are you looking to spend in this space? That will reciprocate in the kind of rig that you're going to be kind of narrowed down to. And really, what's the best bang for your buck in that kind of space? And the way we'll kind of attach this is I'll talk the major components, and then we'll actually pull up like an Excel document, and we'll do some pricing and stuff, and I'll show you kind of, if we're trying to model an example for somebody, kind of what we would do to look to try to maximize their value. Really not looking at the current price of currency, but really looking at the output of the rig. What can the rig do relative to the coins that are out there that can be mined? And circumstantially, that'll roll into what kind of pricing and stuff that you can get. So that's really what we look at. We look at maximizing the amount of hardware that you can get for the dollars, and we'll see what we can get to. the first thing I would say is with the new advent of boards, and this is what's relative against what some of the videos back in May and June, May, June, and July actually, where a lot of boards that were being, from a motherboard standpoint, were looked at were essentially the H81 Pro BTC, and all these boards are on our website, and we're going to bring that up here in a second too. But the H81 Pro BTC, really the 6-card and 7-card rigs. So the Pro BTC, if you could get it, or you were going with the Asus Z270 motherboard, the Prime, and that was either the A or the AR edition, which gave you the 7 cards. You could put 2 M2 PCIe adapters on there and get them to 9 on that board. Those are really kind of I'd call the main core boards that most of the folks in the industry were getting. Then you had the people that had availability with the BioStar boards, the TB250s. Those were very popular too. We did not have a lot of luck with those, but and I mean, it was really hard to get, at least where we were at, the TB250. So we only have a couple builds in all of our stuff with the TB250, and most of the stuff was Asus Z270 Prime. That right now, if you're a starter rig, from just a cost and from it's not just a cost, it's from tearing your hair out kind of event. That's really where I would look to make sure people are staying within. The Z270 Asus Prime for a 6 to 7 card rig is absolutely perfect. We have tens and tens of those. I mean, we're borderline almost probably 100 of those boards have went through, and all of them are working fine. We haven't had any issues with them, and people in the chat could probably attest to that, where that was just, I mean, those boards are phenomenal. They work, and you're guaranteed on at least 7 cards on that board. It's not that difficult to get 7 cards on that board. There is some issues sometimes with the M2 adapters if you're going to go with more than 7, and that really comes down to the M2 adapter, how it's in there. And I've seen we have not had any problems with it, but people have reported a lot of issues with those when you're trying to take it to 9. So from a baseline standpoint, and don't worry, I'm going to roll through this pretty quickly, and then we'll pull it up on a board and on the paper so you have a copy of it. But that's really kind of why I start with the board, is really what predicates like where you can go from things from that. So that'll give you a pretty low cost build. That board's about 130 bucks, 140 something, and that gets you a good baseline, 6 card rig, 7 card rig. You start from that. That's your baseline board that you can go with. You could, on another hand, go with like an ASRock H1110 Pro BTC board. It has 13 slots. And go with an expansion. Start with 6 cards, and then you have a board that you can build up on. You don't have to buy any of the other components. There is an argument for that too. But from a simplest standpoint, and if you're trying to convince the wife, hey, I'm going to build a mining rig, that Asus Z270 Prime is probably one of your best bets from a motherboard standpoint. Processor-wise, I want to make sure I demystify, because you guys probably see quite a bit from us where I'm using like the i7 7350K, or i3 rather. That processor moves around on a lot of our builds just because I like to make things a little faster when we're doing updates and stuff like that. But you do not need that in your mining rig. A G4400 works perfectly fine. If you're going with more than 8-9 cards, there is certain situations where I have seen a mining rig perform what I would call kind of slowed down. Part of that has to do with the cache memory or having a virtual memory set too low. But if you have a G4400 and you're trying to get, let's say 13 1080 Ti's, I have seen a machine almost crawl to its knees when it's actually running 13 1080 Ti's. That is just part of that is just taxing the processor heavily. So I mean, in those kind of extreme cases, you're probably better going with a little faster processor, a little more threads on it, and go with the i3 7350K, or go with even an i5 on something like that. I mean, if you're going to be making that kind of investment, an i5 or an i7 is not that much more of an expensive alternative. But by and large, a G4400 or there around processor, it's about $44, keeps it super cheap. So right there between those two components, you're at $180. for just the motherboard and the processor. Memory's kind of PETA. Memory's expensive right now. Memory is not what it used to be price-wise. Memory used to be one of the cheapest components you can get. Now it's one of the most expensive by comparison to the other inflation and pricing that the other components have went through. Memory right now, a lot of our mining rigs, the majority of the BBT fam, and I'm talking probably 600 GPUs in total, probably 45, 50 rigs set up. Most of them only have 4 gigs of RAM, and they work fine. So 4 gigs of RAM, especially if you're using Linux on like Simple Mining OS, you're more than fine. If you do a top in Linux and you look at how much memory is being used, there's not that much. It's like 1.5 gigs to 2 gigs of RAM at max being used. You're perfectly fine with 4 gigs. There has people will, and you'll see on forums, people talk about having some issues mining particular types of currency, especially like XMR and stuff, where you don't have, if you don't have like up to 8 gigs, especially in Windows, that you'll see some kind of degraded performance. Most of that is still, again, predicated just to the assigned amount of virtual memory in Windows needing to be set high. But with regards to the amount of memory you can get by with 4 gigs, we used to tell people just go with 8. You never know if there's going to be a coin that's going to need a page to memory. But by and large, on most of the stuff that you're going to mine, you only need 4 gigs. I will make an exception, and I'm not watching the chat right now, but I'm betting everybody's screaming saying, oh my god, if you're mining XMR, you need more memory. A lot of this is due if you're using Vega 56s, 56 or 64, and you're going to do like 4 to 5 to even 6 card rig of that. You're going to want some more RAM memory. 8 should be fine. Some people are putting in 16. I don't think you really need 16, but 8, just because if you, just in our review of doing 264 Vegas, using XMR, not even when we were doing it inefficiently, but actually using some of the latest miners and the right configuration where you're getting 2,000 hashes per second on that, that thing actually uses like 2.5 to 3 gigs of RAM just by itself. So 4 gigs would really be taxing that and might slow the machine down a bit. So 8 gig on that if that's your intention, if that's the coin you're going to mine. The price difference. It's about a $40 switch. On 4 gigs of RAM, you're talking probably $42, $43 for the one stick. You're talking close to 80 if you're getting 8 gig. Even if it's a single 8 gig stick. Let's see how many people are here. 130. Man, we're growing a little more today. So you should be fine with 4. Now, if we move on to SSD spindle, don't use a spindle. Forget the whole concept of using a spindle, at least for your primary OS. It's just a waste of your time. You may save a few dollars, but at this day and age, just go with 120 gig solid state if you're using Windows. That's all you'll need. Those are around 30. Well, I mean, it depends which one are on our site, and I'm going to bring it up here in a minute. We link back to a lot of the components that I'm talking about, but don't get a 60 gig. It's not going to be enough because you're not going to be able to create a big enough. And I just tested that too today because we had a few 60 gigs to see if we could set the virtual memory high enough. Windows uses like a lot of disk these days. I mean, there's ways to consolidate that and not to have all the files and stuff local on Windows. However, I wouldn't recommend that because sometimes some updates that Windows pushes out, especially the bigger updates like that, you're going to want some extra disk space, and it may refer to things that it's looking for on that on the Windows drive during like a big patch update. If you remove all the components that are like the storage cab files, there's a chance that it may try to call that during an update and cause it to ask for a disk, which is pretty funny. So you're going to want at least 120 gig on there because you're probably going to have a 20 to 30 gig virtual memory setting because some of the currencies require a higher virtual memory setting. So 120 gig is kind of is the baseline. I wouldn't really spend any more than that. And if you're going to do some kind of dual mining with that machine, not the traditional like Claymore dual mining where you're using Ethereum or an Ethereum-like currency with Decred or a Litecoin or any of that kind of stuff. If you're going to do something like burst mining with the CPU and the spindle hard drive, if you buy like a 4 terabyte hard drive or something, or get an array of hard drives while you're using the GPUs for regular mining, then having maybe a little bigger hard drive than 120 may suffice. But 120 should be fine. If you're going to be using Linux, usually 16 gig USB 3.0 memory sticks work, or flash drives work perfectly fine. If it's like $1 difference for 32 gig, I would just get that. There's just for future use and future page file requirements, if you want to optimize Linux for something like XMR, I would just, it's better. I mean, spend the extra $1 or $2 if there's a difference of $1 or $2 on 32 to 64, but or 32 versus 16. But 16 gig would get you on almost all of the current Linux OS alternatives, such as Simple Mining OS or Pimp OS. I think Pimp asked for a solid state, but USB 3.0 is pretty quick. And then, you know, if you're just doing straight Ubuntu and then just gonna do your own build of mining software, so that'll get you from, and that saves you the cost of the SSD because memory stick's really cheap. So that if you're going Linux OS, you know, you don't need the solid state. Then we look at power supplies. Now, I'll hold on power supplies to look at GPUs. GPUs we could go on a tangent on, but I'm just going to give you a kind of basic on both AMD and NVIDIA. It really comes down to what you're looking into mining. Do some research. See what you're going to want to mine. See what coins you're going to want to hold. If you're going just straight for BTC and you're just going to build a rig and point it to NiceHash, because NiceHash mines whatever somebody points it to, and then you get paid in Bitcoin. That's essentially the way it works. Then I would go for the cheapest components for yourself if you're just going for you know, something like NiceHash, because you're going to get the best bang for the buck on an AMD machine system. But picking an AMD system comes with some territory of, to really get the efficiency out of it, you're going to want to mod at least the timings on your GPUs. That means putting a different BIOS on it. It is absolutely advantageous to do that. But you can run into some issues with, you get into a situation where it comes down to silicone lottery, and what that means is what memory type are you going to get on those GPUs. That highly predicates what series of timing that you move to that GPU, and potential if there's a BIOS available for it. The BIOSes that are readily available that we've tested, and you can see through a lot of our different videos, would be a lot of the MSI variants of the cards. So MSI armors, MSI twin frozers, those type of things. The 570s, the 470s, the 580s, the 480s on the RX series. A lot of availability on known good BIOSes across the board. If it's Hynix, if it's Samsung memory, and Alpida. Those are the three main memory types for that kind of card, and then the last memory type that's out there for some cards is Micron. So it really comes down, when you're looking for your GPU, if you're brand new into this space, memory matters. So the memory type matters, and you won't be able to go, if you're looking on a retail site, and identify the memory type. At least I have not seen any of the major websites producing at least against a SKU code of what memory's on that, because I don't even think they know and want to risk guaranteeing that you're going to get that particular SKU when you order something. So essentially they pull it off the shelf, and then it has whatever memory's there. There is on most of the AMD cards, you're going to be okay on timings across the board on all memory types. There's a timing adjustment for every type of memory out there for almost every type of card. The memory, where memory matters on an NVIDIA side, is mainly just on the 1060s that we've tested, on the GTX 1060 series, where you can actually get some memory type, mainly on, I think, the 3 gigs. I haven't heard, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, on the GTX the actual GTX 1066 gigs, if some of them are running into the memory issues too. But all the 1066 gigs that we have are more than fine. The 3 gigs are where we've ran into the I believe it's the Hynix memory, to where you can only get 19 mega hash out of the card. And a traditional 1060 you can get up to 100 or up to 24 mega hash max out of that card. So memory matters when you're looking, but by and large you're pretty good on it. Pretty much any NVIDIA you buy, short of the 1060, you take a risk on. So I just wanted to make sure that was understood on like the AMD versus NVIDIA side of the advantages there. And then on power supply, that is more predicated on what kind of cards you choose and how many you choose, because of you have to power the card, and certain cards have 2 power connectors at the top, either a 6-pin and 8-pin, or a single 8-pin, and then what's the power draw from the actual riser, and how many cards are you going to have. So that's super predicated on that. We're not going to get way down in the weeds here. There's tons of videos that explain that. But if you're choosing a solution, by and large on 6 and 7, you're most of the time going to be pretty safe with 1,000 watt on a 6-card solution across the board, as long as you're doing the AMD timings on the cards. Out of the box, 6 AMD cards on the RX 470 through 580s. You're gonna go over 1,000 watts, but if you do the timing and do some slight modifications to voltages and core, you'll bring them under 1,000 watts. But you're usually pretty safe with 1,000 watt power supply across the board. Few exceptions there, unless you're in the upper echelon of the higher end cards, like a 1080 Ti on the NVIDIA side. You're gonna want more power. And then some of the outlier AMD 580 cards have 2 power connectors. So when you're identifying the card, you got to check to make sure how many power connectors it requires, because you will run yourself out on a high-end power supply. Lastly, on the power supplies, fitting the need for the power supply for what you're trying to build, a 6-card rig, again by and large 1,000 watt power supply, up to 1,200 watt power supply, or you can always pair a couple 850s and have more than enough overhead. That's usually for a lot of people, it's a lot cheaper option. That's going with 2 gold 850s. We've done a lot of testing with platinum and gold power supplies. Not worth the delta. I mean, we were always big proponents of platinum power supplies. Not a huge amount of savings with choosing a platinum over a gold. Usually the price is pretty significant. I would stick with the gold. And again, going with that 750, 850 dual combo usually nets you a better return, keeps the cost lower. It just requires you to get a power daisy chain adapter to be able to spin up the second power supply. Tons of videos on that. That's out there to see. So that kind of gives you an overview. If you're watching this video fresh, brand new, on that. Now what we'll do is we'll get in. I'll bring over to the chat here, and we'll try to bring up 143. We lost a few people. Some people are looking for something new. Let's get over to here. Oh, I need to put my Stream Deck back on its focus. All right. So we're back on the Stream Deck here, and let's go here. So what I was kind of going through with you guys here, if we go to bitsbetrippin.com, we've done a lot of updates here. We're still doing some more updates in the store here, but if you go to our site here, now we are not selling any of this stuff directly. We only have a few things that we sell directly, which is the crypto shirts and some of the collectibles. We're going to get added a few more things, but most of this other stuff is we're just essentially parsing Amazon and giving you guys a baseline. So if you're starting to put together something here, you can start to look at, let's say, motherboards here. I try to just narrow down just the boards that really we use on mining. So there's other boards that you could have on here. I know that like the MSI Carbon and a few other boards that are maybe even a little cheaper boards do work. However, from our experience, you know, If you're going with kind of an older generation, an $85 Pro BTC here is an older 6-card board. I say older because the chipset is an 1150. Now the problem with that is the processors are going to be a little more. And if you do the math between buying an $85, and these prices are always real-time updated from Amazon. So if you click on that and you go to add to Amazon, it's going to bring you straight here. These prices on our site sync to Amazon Prime. So when you add this and you pick that up, you're buying it straight through Amazon. If you guys look on that site, that's what gets you kind of, so when you're looking at pricing here and you're doing like best price high to low, these are actually being fed over from Amazon. So it kind of correlates just from a mining standpoint. What I would recommend to most people is if you're going to look to expand over a long time, you know, going with like the H1110, which I don't think I actually have added on here. I'll make sure it gets added on here. You'll have 13, or even going with the B250 motherboard here, which has the 19. You don't need to go with 19 cards. This board works perfectly fine with 13 cards. And if you see some videos that we have, you know, we've done it with 11 and then the 8 P106s. But if you got this board, you could build a 13 card mining rig with this board and not have to use any of the extra slots. So you know, that gets you that first entry point, $149, to get into you know, a mining rig. The Z270A, the big difference on the A and the AR, if you look at the I/O ports on the back here, the I/O ports here on the A do not have like DisplayPort and all that. On the AR, they have the DisplayPort and the USB-C connector. It's got a few more connectors. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the extra C-type port, Type A port, and the extra pieces there. If you're not going to use those, which you probably won't, you don't necessarily need to step up to that board. Again, good platform builds. Some people have asked that they wanted to do some XMR mining with their Ryzen. Going with the X370 Pro. Here, as long as you're running, saving this board in the BIOS to have a Gen 1 setting, and then if you're going to use this like as a you just need to go in there and make sure you're on Gen 1 on this board. We did try this. We did have one of these boards with a Ryzen 1800X. You switch those ports to Gen 1 and you're good to go. It'll see all 6 of them, and technically you have a couple M2 adapters. You can go 8 cards on this X370 Pro board. If you're wanting to do some mining with CPU based coins, you can go with that. If we go back, hit store, I need to put a back button on there. I try to make sure that we had a ton of GPU options out here that are parsing. So I mean, there's more than 6 pages of GPUs. Anything that says a sell is just forwarding it over from Amazon as a discount from them. Let's see here. Let's take this instance. Let's look at this 6-pack. So part of the issue when you're buying GPUs is trying to get a place to sell you more than a couple. So something like this, that's an actual 6-pack. Let's see if that's a good deal. Let's bring up. Let me zoom in a bit here so you guys can see. Let's see here. Equals 6 divided by 19. Is that 1950? No, wait a minute. 1950, 325. That's not that good of a deal at all. Let's see here. What is that? 570s? That's a little high. 6 cards should be more like 1600, I believe. Yeah. So there's about that's about 18% higher than what it should be. Price wise, I mean, given the prices and the changes. Oh, that's a motherboard. I need to move that motherboard. That's good to know. Given where the prices are starting to go, as you can see, some of these prices. Let's look here. Now Amazon's sometimes not the best indicator, but you got, I don't know, I didn't sort by price. I got best selling, low to high. So these are 1050 Ti's. I'm looking at the RX 580s for that reference. So, like right here is these are some the XFX. These are the straight up. I don't think these are the black editions. These are probably the baseline XFX 570s. We do have a BIOS for these. These are about 26.5 to 27 mega hash cards pretty consistently with the timings on them. And they're 239. So like, you know, that would be a decent, you know, buy-in price for 570s, 239 times 6. That's 1,400 in graphics cards right there. If you had 149 on the motherboard, GPU, motherboard, CPU is going to be about, let's go back here. We got some of the basic CPUs that we use in here. Here's a G4400. We're talking 53. That should be, yeah, 5360. That is current. So G4400, $53. 50. Let's just call it 54. Bring those up. On the CPU, let's bring this over here. Then now case is one of those things that I highly recommend building. We have several videos out there on how to build this from scratch. If you look at some of our oldest videos back in even 2013, 2014, yes, this channel is that old. We show you guys mechanically on how to construct that. Even with the time lapse of building one, a GPU mining rig costs anywhere from $35 to $50 if you already have tools to build from scratch. You can use just all wood and make it even cheaper. Or if you don't have the time and space, you can. I did make sure that there was a few cases out here that people have out there on Amazon. There's other sites out there too. Again, none of our sites here, I'm not telling you this is the best deal. This gives you a baseline to base it off of. So then you can go and look, be smart about it. You know, click on the Amazon thing, look at the price, then go price match it. Go out and Google it. Look at the name of these particular things and see if there's other sites out there that have mining rig deals and other component deals. You know, there's Newegg, there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there. There's just not us, you know, forwarding you over to Amazon. You know, make sure you're making a good price conscious decision there. You know, something like this Roswell case where you have, you know, it's $169, it's a server kind of base case. I mean, it's not too bad considering the cost of some of these server cases, like the ones that we did, you know, a few months back were almost $500, where this Roswell case is essentially the same thing for a lot cheaper. The gray matter cases, rather, were way, way overpriced when you can get this Roswell case a lot cheaper, $169. That is, I believe that's the current price on Amazon. It should be, yes, free shipping. It's not Prime, but it is free shipping. So there's that. It does come from Roswell Incorporated. So, I mean, pretty decent price. You're going to have to supply all the goods for it, power supply and all that stuff. But, you know, let's just use that as an example of the price for case 169, case. We're just going to make this whole row there. Now, most people are just going to build. I would recommend building it just to save you the $130 there, personally. But if it's going to be difficult to build it, then I would recommend, you know, something that's going to make it safe, at least. So Ballistic Sports, that seems to be one of the cheapest memory chips out there right now from a 4 gig standpoint on Amazon. Wow, that price is not succinct. 6. I'm going to have to make sure, I'm going to write that down. That should have moved that price. Because that says 50. We'll run our price agent again on it and make sure that it updates those. But again, you know, it doesn't hurt to go out there and check and validate. Yep, 50. So about 50. Let's just go with 50 right now. Memory. I think these were RX 470 XFX. I'm just putting that down because that matters. Base models do about 27.5 megahash. ETH. About 280 Sol without 2 hard. Zcash equivalent. Those are relatively safe numbers. You can peek out them a little higher than that, but that just kind of gives you an idea on those. Let's look at some other components here. Again, I will get to your guys' questions. I don't have anybody watching the chat tonight. This was really just a direct buying guide. We are going to put together a kind of a, I call it a Black Friday deal. I'm parsing the internet looking for the best deals that I can find for the cheapest mining rig. Right now I'm at about $1,200, so for a pretty decent rig. So I'm going to try to get that posted. The moment I post that, it's probably going to not be $1,200 anymore because everybody's going to probably buy it. But that's just looking at some deals. You'll get cooling with your retail CPU. Processors we already did. Risers. No risers. I will update some. Those risers will be in there after this video. I have a whole bunch of risers in there. I just need to open up that they're added. You know what? Hold on 1 second. I'll make sure that gets updated right now. That's just a click of a switch. We'll get this updated. Okay, not a click of a switch. So, anyways, after this video, I'm going to push that, so we'll have risers. But bottom line, risers. I'll make sure it's our risers that we're using. Risers, and the ones that you're gonna want are the 6-pin mint cells. Pretty often, probably usually the go-to people. $46 for 6. That's not too bad. If you buy them on bulk on Alibaba, you can get them down to like $4, $5 a riser. If you buy them in big bulk, you can get them down to about $3.50 per riser. These days equals, let's see, 6. 46, 6, 7. That's $7.60. They're making about $2.50, $3 profit on that. Mint cell is $46.50. Risers, 6 of those, and then PSU, and then OS drive. If you go with just a memory stick, it's about $6, and a PSU on this kind of build, I would go with 1,000. Oh, let me go to this because I believe I have all the power supplies in here all added. Let's go low to high. Alright, there's already some stuff sold out. We'll come back to this. You need an adapter to make those work. That's about $30 to $40. It ends up being a pretty a better deal, but we look at our last video towards the end. I have a whole explanation on using server power supplies you guys can refer to. On this particular rig, let's just see if it would be cheaper to go with 2 smaller power supplies. So bronze, I would not go with bronze gold. So a 750 GQ is about $84. So that times 2, $170. Or going with a, you'll need a daisy chain adapter. It's about $15, so you got to consider that cost. Or going with like a, let's look here, 850, 162. I mean, on that particular rig, you could get away with the thermal take here. I've had, so we've probably bought about 15 of these thermal takes, and I've had one that had an issue out of all of them. I have not had any issues with the 1000 watt G3 EVGA. So I mean, it's a toss up from a price standpoint. It might be better to go with this. Let's just go with this one for right now. In this particular case, this has 4. Each the cool thing about the thermal take is each of these 4 8 pins here result into two 8 pins on the ends. So that the pigtails at the ends, it gives you the ability to technically plug in up to 8 devices. You would not be able to go with the. All right, wait a minute. I'm gonna make sure. Hold on. Hold that thought. It might actually come with 2. No, sorry. I'm thinking of the 1475. The 1000 watt will come with 2 straight 8 pins, and then 2 that have 2 8 pins on them. So that's 6 total. So this power supply comes with the 6 that you require for this. So we'll just go with this one. This 1475 comes with the double 8 pins on all the threads. So this one 165, and then if the OS drive was if you're using simple mining OS on there, you would have to mod these, and then you're looking at essentially equals 27.5 times 6. You're looking at about 165 mega hash rig here equals 280 times 6. You're looking at about 1680 souls, closer to 1700 depending on how you overclock them. With the right timings on that kind of setup, you're going to be looking at and running like 950. If you put in the command cvddc, here we go, and you run this at 950, and then you run the mvddc at 925. You run those settings with this, and you'll get roughly 865 to 890 watts of power usage out of that. If you're getting any more than that, then you're running the cards too hard. You're probably not at 1060 watts on the CPU, on the core, and on this one you'll be at 1950 memory setting. So that particular rig, total cost will sum $2073. So just at $2,000 right now for a rig like that at those kind of settings. 165 mega hash. If you were to do this same thing with like 1060s or 1050 Ti's, 1050 Ti's are about $150. 6 times 150, that's $900. You wouldn't need that big of a power supply. Depending which 1050 Ti you got, you could go with a cheaper power supply. Wait a minute. It's this. Copy to here. Paste to here. And there you go. So you're looking at, you know, about a $500 savings, but 1050 Ti's are about 14.4 mega hash each. 14.4 times 6. You're at 86 mega hash. You're at a pretty significant, I mean, literally half the mega hash for not half the cost. You are about half the power, though. A 1050 Ti rig like that's about less than 500 watts of power. It's about 400 and some change. So not 850. But again, you're at half the thing. So I mean, there's different opportunities with that. I mean, you can go with 13. If you go with the 13 card motherboard, which would be about the same cost as that. All the rest of the same settings here. You go with the same power supply as long as you're getting the ones without 16, without the 6-pin requirement, because some of the 1050 Ti's, and you'd be at 187. So you'd be a little over mega hash. So 13 1080 Ti's would be about 187 mega hash for roughly 2,500 bucks. So that's kind of giving you an idea from a barrier of entry. Your best bangs for the bucks right now still in the long term is probably the 1070s. The 1070 Ti's are close. They're not really, the extra expense kind of challenges their pricing. You're talking, let's see here, that would be $439. You can get by with that power supply. You're at $3,200 on a 1070 Ti rig, or a 1070 rig. That's going to do 32 mega hash easily, if not close to 33 times 6. You're getting 192 mega hash out of a rig like that. You know, but you're going to have another 20% of the cost, 26% more cost for $2 increase. 1050 Ti rig, 13 cards, looking pretty nice on that kind of scenario. So I mean, resell though, if you're looking at the sunk cost resell on it, going to be a lot easier to sell the 1070s. So that's part of the value add with them. So let's get this back here. I'm going to go to this piece here and bring up the, uncheck. Game capture before we can go, before I can bring up the chat and I can answer some questions. So is it profitable for mining? Yes, it is actually still. It's not hyper profitable like it was like in June, but the way mining works in general is your you look at the relative profitability right now. That kind of helps you get into it. So is it profitable? Yes. How profitable is it? It depends on the kind of rig and the kind of deal that you get on the rig. If we were just looking at the settings that we were just looking at now, you're probably looking at anywhere from 7 to 12 months, depending on the cycle. And what I mean by that is, like, it could be as early as 7. It could be early as 5 months if prices go up exponentially. If they go up like they did at the same, almost at the same rate and curve that they did in May and June, to where there's a, if there is a run up on, let's say Ethereum. Right now Ethereum's 350 current price. Let's say that, you know, the commodity futures trading stuff really kicks Bitcoin in the up, and it starts getting close to 10 grand, and Ethereum, let's say, goes up by another $100, $150, the profitability comes up with that pretty exponentially, and then you're going to see a run on graphics cards again. Nobody knows the price, the future price, right? I mean, otherwise there'd be a pretty interesting event of a lot of people making a lot of money on certain times. So what we do with mining in general is you get into the game, you have a rig, and you just start mining. You mine at, I mean, for a long time we were mining at nearly a loss in 2015. That paid off because Ethereum went up. Will it go up in the future? I mean, we believe in the currency. We believe we believe in the entire process of what mining and what proof of work and what this space is allowing for. The ability to cross hedge that and buy a piece of equipment that retains value is part of the reasons why we get into GPU mining. I'm looking at some of the. Can you talk about taxes, etc.? Well, I mean, taxes are. So taxes, you realize when you have currency, when you earn cryptocurrency, let's say you go to a wallet with your Bitcoin. When you send it over to an exchange to do an exchange, it's kind of it works on a first in, first out kind of basis where you have to report, essentially, I mined this, I sent it to an exchange, and I paid for it. It is on you, at least this is only applicable to the US, it is on you to report your times of when you received it, right? And then the delta net change of price is advantageous for you to capture that. So when you actually go to cash it out, there may have been times when you got your payout and price was $100, and you got your payout and price was $50, and then you got your payout and your price was $250. You're capturing all those moments, and then when you go to sell it, you can show kind of some of that you know, what was relative when you got it. You're supposed to show that. Now you could go in and submit it and then take the realized net gain of what's current and just say, well, you got it. But to be audit, I would call it audit proof, is there's a history of you of when you got it. That's why I tell people when they mine is have a mining address. You know, so you have your traditional wallet you have, and then have one that you mine to, and then you can capture all those points of when it was paid. And then you can measure when you're selling what that delta was between each of those payment times. If you're using something like ethermine.org, it's showing you all your payment times, right? And to do your correct reporting, if you're selling, you're supposed to, the way it's supposed to be recorded is first in, you know, so when your first payment, if you're selling 10 and you mined 50 coins, your first 10 are what you're supposed to pay tax against, because that was your oldest stuff, right? So taxes are just something that you got to take care of in the U.S., especially if you want to not get yourself in a lot of trouble from an audit standpoint. But you know, they're kind of resting on us to be honest brokers on that. We do a lot of holding. We did expense some stuff this year towards crypto, and I'm in that kind of mindset now that I'm in the coins long, because you know, taking out and buying a you know, when Bitcoin was starting to be accepted everywhere, putting it on you know, buying it on Newegg or something. You know, I think I bought a 295X2 like 2 years ago with the crypto. And at the time, I think Bitcoin was like $350 to $340. That graphics card was like $1,000. You know, I spent 3 freaking Bitcoin on a 295X2. It hurts me to this day that I spent 3 Bitcoin on a 295X2. So, I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, in crypto, when you're building a rig, you're building it for an investment period. You got to understand that when you build that it's going to be a long-term thing. Like, it should be at least, you should be aiming for at least a 1 year turnaround. Look at it at 1 year. See what the crypto has gained in that much time. I would recommend you guys watching I did a how to buy Bitcoin video like a week and a half ago. You don't have to follow what we're saying there when it comes to the incremental purchase of Bitcoin. What I'm trying to say is that there's an opportunity that if you have $5,000 and you're wanting to put it into this space, You know, you could build a $2,500 rig that is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. It's going to keep just feeding you currency. You are participating by putting a machine on the network, helping to do the proof of work for the network and hold the security of the network up. For that, you're getting compensated for its time. You're going to get incremental amounts of currency from that. Then take a cross hedge of that other remaining $2,500 and put in a static buy over a period of time, versus taking the $2,500 and buying out. Like right now, if you were to buy in Bitcoin, you're buying at all-time high. If you were to put that $2,500 and you were to put $100 a week for 25 weeks, you're going to buy at all-time high. You may buy in a dip. You may buy in a dip. You may buy in a dip. You may buy in an all-time high again. And that's that whole cost basis average concept, to where you're incrementally getting into the game that way. You're not taking a huge risk up front by putting a whole bunch into it, but you're getting an incremental buy into it. And that spreadsheet that we include in that how to buy Bitcoin video is one, it's just showing people mechanically on how to buy it incrementally, kind of cross-edge. Build a rig, get into the mining game from an alt currency side, get yourself some alt currency, and then also do an incremental buy plan on Bitcoin and hedge on Bitcoin over time. Can we use the Claymore settings in Simple Mining cvddc? Yes, you can. If you go into your Claymore syntax in Simple Mining, you can add those settings into your Claymore. He was the first one to talk about this on a stream of his. I don't know what that one's for. Yeah, and again, like I said, you know, I'm not a tax person, but it's not super complicated on what we're doing and how to pay tax for it. If you understand how the tax system works, you're going to talk to 8 people and they're going to give you 8 different versions. But an honest broker approach to it is you are getting an incremental amount of cryptocurrency on a static amount of time. Well, static meaning that you're getting paid out. You can make it static of the amount that's being paid out. So if you're going to a pool and you have it set to pay you out at one coin, your frequency is going to be your payouts. At those time date stamps, you can look at what the crypto was worth at that point in time, right? So the same way as if you would do, if you're treating this like a business, you know, I would go to your tax person and challenge them if they say that you can't depreciate your equipment. You're using this for a service. You are providing a service to a global network. For that service in exchange, you are getting a cryptocurrency. You're getting paid for it. There's no reason that I have seen in the way that I'm going to report, and would love to talk with a tax attorney, IRS person, to challenge them, like that's not any different than a home business. So we treat this like a home business. We are exchanging our equipment and our power and our investment cost to generate cryptocurrency, which also has a value. Each time it's paid out, there's innate value there. We store said value at the time that we go to transact it to a fiat currency to pay for other things. At that point, we do a first in delta between what the price is and we pay our tax accordingly. And the depreciation schedule that we look at and recommend, and I'm just reading some of the comments, guys, is I do it on 18 months because the turnaround in the technology to depreciate it over a schedule of 18 months, you can do that. If you depreciate it to 0 and you sell that asset, you're going to have to show that delta of what if you depreciate it to 0, it's 0. So I mean, you could give it away, which I wouldn't recommend, or you could, if you turn around and put it on eBay or something and sell it, you have your original cost, you depreciate it, and then what your delta is that you sold it for. You're gonna have to show some level of income on that. If you did it to zero, then you've made that 100% income from the zero up. So if you depreciated that whole rig, you claim that on your taxes, and then you turn around and sold the thing for $1,200 on eBay, you just now had $1,200 of new value. So you got to be careful on all that. Be smart about that. The tax man is not one of those things to kind of mess with. I mean, especially in the U.S., it's not worth it. You don't want to look over your shoulder. Just pay your stuff, right? I mean, figure it out. It's cost of doing business on it. If you're in it long enough, especially with the people that have been mining since 2012, 2013, it's paid off more than you've ever needed to pay the tax man. You know, like I said, we use this a couple times. We mined Litecoin for a long time. That's 1,800 Litecoin. You know, when we go to on like $10,000 worth of equipment, 1,800 Litecoin times the to sell it at current prices was a lot better deal than that $10,000 worth of worth of expense that it took over that time. It was 2 machines over 2.5, 3 years of power usage. It was highly inefficient because there was ASICs at the time, but that 1,800 Litecoin is worth more than that entire event. If you're mining Ethereum right now and you're only getting a couple at a time, if Ethereum takes a big exponential growth, or if you're mining other cryptocurrencies and you're just changing up, let's say you're mining Extronia or Electronium, or you're mining Zcash or any of these things, and you're converting them, and you're getting the Zcash, you're converting it to Bitcoin, you're buying another currency, and then that currency sees exponential growth. All of those actions, those price actions and stuff, from bought in to sell is your gain, right? So if you're getting 6 and 7 times gain, paying your relative tax is part of that task. So some of the questions. BBT tripping on an update that removes the amount of NVIDIA Windows 10 defects. An update that removes the amount of NVIDIA Windows 10 defects. I don't know what you're asking me, Lewis. I would recommend anybody that is mining in Windows right now, make sure you have the 17.10 update in Windows. The Fall Creator update fixes all kinds of stuff. And then make sure you're running the latest drivers both on AMD and on NVIDIA. On the AMD driver, on the latest drivers, you can set your GPUs to compute mode. If you've updated your GPUs, you need to go in to the actual AMD settings, and then under each of the GPUs that you'll see up there on the list in Windows, you can go in there and choose your mode. Right now it defaults on gaming. You can hit the drop down and go into compute. Yeah, I mean, you can work. I see a lot of the questions with tax. I don't think a lot of people talk about tax for the fear that the video will be held against them. But I mean, like I said, just pay your taxes. Talk to a tax person. I mean, so if you're an average Joe in the U.S. and you go to H&R Block or whatever, they're not going to know. You just got to go and explain, here is a business expenditure that I'm doing at home. Here's the cost of that expenditure. I mean, that's provable. You spent the money for the rig. It had a relative output in cryptocurrency. It had power usage, so you're going to have those costs. Those are all cost components. What I think you'll have difficult in is if you're showing like rig downtime and then you missed out on opportunity cost. That's going to be kind of, I'd be careful with that one. You could calculate it to figure, my rig was only up 60% of the time. If it was up at 100% of the time, here's how much I would have had. This was my lost opportunity cost. I'm running a net negative now, and I don't owe anything because of that. You got to be careful with that. Primorius, if you're running the latest AMD driver in the settings, there is a new setting. If you update your driver and you're running an AMD card, you can toggle now between compute and gaming mode. That allows the GPU to run on the blockchain driver side. It's actually really nice. It was kind of like a silent ad that I liked from AMD to do that way, because if you are a gamer or you're somebody that wants to cross-hedge some mining, you know, in the evenings or something when you go to sleep, having the ability to keep it in game mode when you're playing games and then flip that mode to compute and then run your miner at night is pretty nice. JS, you might be able to get away with that downtime argument if you had a hurricane in the area. Because you could at least show, hey, I was out of power from this much time. Factual statement. What's the opinion on NiceHash on a small 7 mixed GPU rig? I'm 2 weeks in on the program and I'm pretty happy with the results so far. I mean, there's been a bump in a lot of prices. I mean, XMR was sitting there hovering around $89. Now it's $130, $120. Ethereum's up to $350. Z Classics up, or pretty much everything that's mineable is up in some capacity. So looking at NiceHash, even with their fees, I mean, you're getting Bitcoin, and you're kind of getting the advantage with NiceHash. The disadvantage is the extra fees. The advantage is that it's converting it over to Bitcoin, and as Bitcoin goes up to all-time highs, it's looking pretty because you're getting it at the Bitcoin that you're getting that's $7 when Bitcoin's 6,600. That amount that is equivalent to, you know, $7, $8 is now $12 when it's up 30%, 20%. So it was like your machine was making you $12 a day, not $7. So yes, NiceHash is nice for that because it's converting you over to Bitcoin. You're getting Bitcoin for NiceHash. So if Bitcoin's performing very well, you're gonna get that realized gain because you're already in Bitcoin. You're not holding an altcoin that didn't follow Bitcoin and not make you as much in that much time. What's the best GPU for mining, and should you wait for new cards and when they come out? The best GPU mining right now, it's a subjective thing, but having a and I say subjective because if you're looking at it depends what you're trying to mine. I would say just overall in general, if you can get a good deal like $390, $380. I've seen some discounts down for the Vega 56. I think you'll be pleasantly happy with a Vega 56 or a Vega 64 at a lower price in the 400s. Just because they mine Ethereum at some of the fastest numbers that are out there. They can mine, you know, the Zcash performance, meh. The XMR is second to none. So you're getting a good return on the Vega 56s right now. Probably the best return on the Vega 56 with the power settings dialed right. And then the 1070 is still probably Crown King for most versatile because you can do Zcash and a few other currencies pretty well. If you're going to dual mine your RX series, AMDs are still one of the best out there. NiceHash the shame. Hey, I'm not going to hit anybody from trying NiceHash. NiceHash is probably one of the easiest barrier of entries because you can just download it and run it, right? So I mean, if you're a GPU miner, or if you're not even a miner and you're just a dude that has a gaming rig, and wants to do some cryptocurrency mining, you can just download NiceHash, hook it up, get a Bitcoin address, and have a go at it. Yeah, there you go. You mined $400 worth of BTC when it was 3,000. Yeah, so that's double your money. Is there any reason to avoid the cheap blower fan cards? Is the noise an issue? Is the noise an issue, or is reliable resale value eyeing some 1080 Ti turbo fans? So the turbo 1050 Ti's are fine. The Founders Editions, both the MSIs run a little hotter. They don't have a backplate if I recall correctly. But the Founders Editions were some of the best TIs that we were running. We were getting 38.5 mega hash out of a 1080 Ti Founders Edition. They were really good cards. So I wouldn't have any issue with any of the blower fans. The heat they are like I mean, they're like hair dryers. I mean, they put out a lot of CFM out the back, and I mean, it's going to heat up a house. It is winter though in the U.S., so it is pretty nice. Keeps things warm in areas. Is it better to build less rigs with bigger cards or more rigs with smaller cards? I have found that, I mean, it really comes down, if you're going to do multiple rigs, your best bet is, if you're not so concerned with the micro price difference between GPUs, it's best to go with cards that are not going to put out a lot of heat. So I know that's a weird way to answer that, but I would say you could build a lot of... The problem with a lot of rigs is management and maintenance. I would build 1 or 2 rigs that had bigger cards in it than have like 4 rigs, because that's just 4 things I got to deal with. Some people will argue that they like the 4 rigs because if one goes down, they still have 3 that are going. But the more rigs you have, the more power requirements you have, that in most situations are going to be... You're probably going to get to 2 or 3 rigs, and then you're going to be like looking for power in a house, or you're going to be putting it in like guest bedrooms and bathrooms and places that have their own 20 amp connection. So it depends on the intent. I mean, some of the best setups right now are the mining edition cards. They're a little expensive, but they don't put out hardly near the heat. They're a lot more power efficient, and I mean, like, it's just a better deal. But at the prices that you can get them in the U.S., not so good of a deal. If you can get them in the mid-2s, it's not that bad. How heat become a problem? Heat becomes a problem is if you're in an area that doesn't get cold right now in the winter, heat's a problem. If it's a winter, it's great. For the next 6 months, you're golden. Open a window, turn on your rigs, and let her blow. $400 amps in your barn, that'll make it happen. Huh?
As long as you keep the dust out.
Yeah, Miss BBT's in the house. I was going to do some writing on the board, but I don't think I need to. Running, I'm just answering questions. Now this is like a Q&A. I like Q&A. Running I'm assuming that's an H1110 ASRock, 12 1070s. Restarts 4 to 6 times every hours. Stock clocks, even on stock clocks. You probably have one GPU that's giving you some hell. What I would do is, the way so I'm going to give you guys a kind of BBT, I guess, pro tip. So if I have a machine in that scenario, so here, let's play out the scenario. Ah, look at that, strong $10 tip, like a boss. I'll help you guys as much as I can. So if you look at, here's a pro tip for you. If I'm working on a 12 to 13 card mining rig, and I've set some settings and it has a bad reboot problem, more than likely it's a couple things. It's either a riser that's giving me hell on one of the cards, and or it's a card that's having an issue. The way I start troubleshooting it right away, and if I'm on stock clocks and it's having an issue, what I do is I juice them up. I juice them up to, like on that particular thing, if you have 1070s, I would take them to 650 memory. I would drop the core by 100, I'd drop the core requirement down, and I'd set them at power level 70. I'd restart it, I'd watch it. I would look for restarts with a GPU felling out. where it'll sit there and dump an air screen on the GPU. What I'm looking for is there's probably a GPU right on the edge, or there's a riser that's not right, and if you juice it up, you're going to have that GPU puke probably a lot faster, and it's probably going to give you a restart. It's going to say GPU 4 has stopped responding. I'm going to identify that GPU. I'm going to take it out of the mix. I'm going to drop the clocks back down, and I'm going to try to run it and see if I get any more restarts than that card not being present anymore. If that card's not present, everything's good, then I'm going to take that riser, I'm going to swap it with a known good one, I'm going to put it back into the mix. I'm going to run it back on its stock clocks. I'm going to troubleshoot it until I can find the one that's causing the issue. More than likely, it's just one card. It's a statistical thing. When you put 12 cards, 13 cards in there, you're probably going to have, it's very rare to have everything just work out of the box. I've only had a couple times that's occurred. Most of the time is always with NVIDIA GPUs. AMD GPU is a lot more of a problem. And what you end up finding is that maybe you can end up running that card a little differently, meaning like you can bring the clocks down, it'll be your slow one of the mix, and then you can juice the rest of them up, and you'll have to individually assign the requirements from the power and memory on them. But the big thing is to try to get the GPU to trip. And raising it up will make the ones trip. Now, there's a positive that you could have multiple GPUs trip, but at least you're identifying who your weak cards in the list are. You can also go through and take a mapping of like what the ASIC qualities of them. I've seen cards that have given me some of the worst settings and biggest issues. If you bring up GPU Z and you go in there and you look at the ASIC quality, it's one of the settings in GPU Z. I don't know if I have it on my laptop. I can probably bring up the video on it, on how to do it. I don't have it on my laptop. We'll bring it up for another GPU Z ASIC quality. If you're in Windows, you can do a check on the ASIC quality. Most of them will be like 78.4 to maybe 84%. Look at and see if you can identify the card that has the worst ASIC quality, and then see if that's the card that's giving you the problems. You can run some slower settings on it, and more than likely you'll fix it. What are the benefits of running an AMD in GPU in compute mode? When you run an AMD in compute mode, you are enabling the blockchain driver. The primary reason for the blockchain driver is to fix a bug with the DAG. So, like if you're running the an AMD card on Ethereum, and the DAG file, which is a localized database, let's just call it a database for a hash table for Ethereum, it's over 2.5, or no, it's not even 2.5, it's like 2.3 gig in size. The card it will slow down. So if a card's 30 mega hash, it'll actually be doing about 26 mega hash when the compute driver's not on. When you enable the compute driver, it gets rid of that issue. We'll go for about 10 more minutes, guys. We'll keep it right at an hour and a half. Best GPU with one of the shortest ROIs. Probably a good deal on a 1060. If you can find a 1060 for like, if you can find a 3 gig 1060, and you can get 24 mega hash out of it, it uses some of the least power and gives you some of the highest results. So that would have the highest ROI on you. So like a 1063 gig that has like Micron memory or Samsung memory, you're good. Difference between the 3 gig GTX and the 6 gig GTX. 3 gig and the 6 gig are both good. The problem is that you roll the dice with the 3 gig is if you're going to get Hynix memory or not. And for whatever reason, the Hynix memory starts out of the gate at about 16 mega hash, and when you overclock it, it only goes to 19. So you're missing out about 3 to 5 hash per card when you get Hynix memory 3 gig GTX 1060s.
You ever do a water-cooled rig?
Have I done a water-cooled rig? I've done water-cooled cards.
Thoughts on mixed rig?
Mixed rigs are fine. I have lots of mixed rigs. I had a lot of mixed rigs. Most of the time you have to go with a mixed rig if you can't find, like, Microcenter only sells you 2 graphics cards anymore. I don't know about fries. Somebody can talk about fries. I don't have a fries here. The mixed rigs are what you're probably going to have to go with. The only problem with mixed rigs is you may get some weird results when you're trying to force the same speed on everything. I haven't used Awesome Miner. I don't know. I haven't tried Awesome Miner. I've seen them and MinerGate. I haven't messed with them. I know MinerGate's reached out to try to do a video. I haven't. I don't think I've. I told them I'd look into their stuff. I haven't yet. .584 gig LP to memory. I mean, I think I have some LP to memories. They're a little flaky. I think on some of our LP to rigs, we had to run 1880 memory, and on those ones we just ran. I think those are the ones we were running dual mining with, because we were trying to offset some of the lost hash with extra coin. You pay a little more in power though doing that. Newegg can buy 6, sometimes 12 cards at a time. Yep. I heard a Miss BBT voice. Say hello. No. No. I did order a mic. She has a mic coming. Uh-oh.
Then I'm in trouble. Then I gotta be nice.
Yeah. That the quality's not. Must have the quality turned down. Two rigs with 570. Best motherboard for 6 to 10, I think personally, from our experience in testing and everything working, is the Asus Prime Z270. From a over 9 cards. Because that board will do up to 9 cards. I would say it's a toss-up between the H110 Pro and the Asus Prime, or the Asus B250 Mining Expert. The Mining Expert's a really kind of big motherboard, but I mean, the fact that you can get 13 on it without needing the P106 cards, that's again a 13 card board that you can use. Have you tested the Windows 10 GPU limit with the new 1710 update yet? The 1709 update allowed us to get to 21 GPUs. If you watch our 21 GPU special on our mining video on here, we got 21 GPUs with version 1710 or 1709.
What happened with your chefs today?
I don't know. I didn't watch them. They get beat today. I've been knee deep trying to get this website done and some of the resource DB stuff done. I didn't even have time to watch football. The things I'm doing for you guys. Yeah, I'd recommend the Mining Expert boards, even if you're not going to go 19. You can go 13 with the board all day long, and it works like a champ.
Is it worth it for the 1070 Ti over regular 1070?
Not at the cost difference, it's not. If they're within $40 of each other, go with the 1070 Ti. The 1070 Ti stayed a lot cooler, and it seemed to use less power. So it's not that better of a deal from the aspect of cost difference. I would go with the 1070 if the cost difference was like $60 or $70 difference. If you can get the cost down, I think actually mining's better than football. I'm gonna add in the thing. I'm gonna bring back up the site. I think I added some 1070s. Yeah. Well, actually, I can leave that part off. I think I have it on the stream deck. Let me make sure this is on. I'll bring up the, let's see here. Woohoo! I can see myself. Look at this under the graphics cards. Let's look at the price differences right now. So we're on bitsbetrippin.com. Some more updates on this tonight, but I got most of the stuff over from Amazon that's out there right now. Again, you guys can use this as a price reference and then check against Newegg. I'm trying to get Newegg added and a few other Micro Center added, a couple other ones added to where they'll be up here with Selector over here on this side from which company they're coming from. But let's look here. Best selling, low to high. Or you know what? Did I put the search engine here? Let's see here. That's 460. Graphics cards. I didn't put the search here, did I? Oh, I got to add the search. I'll add a search here for you guys can search. I didn't add a search. So if we price them this way, they're probably 290s. Expensive. What's the cheapest? So the cheapest 1070s. That's 580. There's probably this Super Clock 429. I've seen this one as low as 409 on Best Buy deals. I'm going to be putting out that little, I would call it a newsletter. It's not really a newsletter, but it's just, we'll do a small episode to see what we can find on Black Friday, what's out there in the deal. But I believe this one I've seen at 409, which is a pretty good deal for a 1070 Super Clock. The Zotac Amped Extreme 1070, that was the one we tested in late May that did amazingly. This is a 34 mega hash card. It holds 1,000 megahertz memory. This card is friggin' awesome. The Amped Extreme editions are all great. Let's see here, the 1070 Mini. So the 1070 Mini is $449. So I mean, you're really looking price wise. And I haven't seen the Mini. We haven't ordered a Mini. But this is the 2-fan one, and if it's anything like the Amped Extreme or close to it, this might be one of the better ones out there to go with a 1070 with the price point. I mean, it's already $449, but I mean, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a 1070 price at more around $399. If you can find them at $399 or even lower, $389, that's like a steal. For the pricing, I don't even know if eBay these days, if eBay has those kind of deals. Let's look here, GTX 1070. And what I like to do here, like on eBay, I mean, there's some people with free shipping 407. That's a Ford that win it. That's pre-owned, so you gotta watch those and see if somebody murdered it. But you can come down here and you look at completed listing, or I look at sold listings. I like to see what were the prices that they went at, and this is pretty recent stuff, right? So there's your aftermarket pricing on GPUs. So 360, 370. There's your retail, or your compared to what retail is. So the good thing is this is a good price indicator too to see what the aftermarket. You can really tell when GPU mining's taken off is when you start seeing prices that are higher than retail. Because that means in the particular geographic area of where they're trying to sell them, the retail's out. So there's some that, I mean, the Founders Edition people are getting $430. Parts only. Somebody killed one of them. Yeah, so that's the tens. Let's see if there's any. I don't think there's any 1070. Let's see what the TIs are going for. Yeah, so people are. Oh my God, what's wrong with people? Oh, that's an 8700 in with it. I thought somebody paid 850 for a 1070 Ti Founders, and I was gonna say, man, somebody got worked. I mean, so they're selling for retail prices right now on eBay. $700. That's a price that somebody bought. Well, what's wrong with people? Be smart. Check eBay. Check all the different sources. 1063 gigabyte. These ones here are the ones you got to worry about. These EVGA small super clock ones, high chance that they're Hynix memory. All of these that I had and that I have been through, the 3 gig Gaming X's were all good memory. I have never seen a Hynix memory on a Gaming X. So you're probably pretty safe on those if you can find them. Same thing with these WindForce ones. I don't know if anybody can report, but all the GeForce GTX 1063 gig WindForce gigabyte ones were all usually pretty good too. So that's a pretty decent price, 180 on that piece there. So you know, I do like trying to check pricing on cards on eBay because that kind of gives us an indicator what's going on. But you know, you can sort this in here. Again, I'm going to add the risers. Most of the cables that we use, we put in here, you know, when we're talking about the dual 8 pins. So this guy here, where you have a single 8 pin and it goes to 2 8 pins, where you run into situations when you go to like a 8 card rig, or a 7 card rig, and you bought a power supply and you're missing one dongle. This is where this kind of thing comes in handy. It's always usually good to pick up one of these. They're $8, $7.80. Let's view that on Amazon. There it is. Free shipping. That's a cheap buy. They're good just to have. I always recommend people having at least one. You'll probably find, especially in mining, that you're going to need that. You can also take this and move this. This goes to 2 6 pins. So you can actually take one of your VGAs and switch it into 2 risers right here and go 6 pins directly into the risers. So most of the adapters on here are just some of the adapters. There's some more adapters I need to add on here. But I try to find and peruse the cheapest stuff for you guys on there. Again, we don't get any. This is well, I mean, we get a basic affiliate stuff on this, but we're not stocking any of this stuff. You're buying it on Amazon. Tools of the trade. I need to add a kilowatt on here. There's no kilowatt on here for some reason. You know, thumb screws like those are nice. And if you're building your own rig, you're gonna want some motherboard things. If you're building lots of rigs, that dual, this guy over here, you probably can't see it. This guy here for replicating your hard drives is a must. It's just one button and it dupes your hard drive. Power supplies, I made sure that all the power supplies are on there. Low to high. Yeah, most of the stuff that you guys are already seen on here. I just, for the new folks that joined, you know, most of all the power supplies are on there too. So we'll be adding some more this week. I'm going to try to have on the front page of the website here. This picture's probably going to go away. We do have BBT shirts in. We got some orders that need to go out. They're going out tomorrow, but I'm going to put the Black Friday stuff that we can find when it's related to crypto. We're going to put it on here on the site. So Discord server, I recommend. This is kind of closing out the rest of this episode. Discord server, that's right there. You click that, that's going to take you into Discord. You'll get invited. You can add a name and join us on Discord. We have close to 600 people that are subscribed, are a part of Discord on our server. A lot of questions get answered there. The Steam It blog, if you click that, I try to post more detailed stuff related to this is kind of our blog. Instead of having a blog on our website, we have the blog here, that how to buy Bitcoin incrementally. I put that on there. this leads you back to our actual YouTube page and kind of why and how we put this together. This shows you how to get into the game over time, into buying crypto. All the multi-miner stuff usually are put out here if we're doing the multi-miner updates. I'm almost done with 563, so I've added a couple more coins and fixed some stuff for the new multi-miner. That'll be coming out here in the next week. So that's out there. The mining resource database, we'll be doing an episode on that this week, which will change this thing from not the resource list, the database thing. This is gonna get replaced with the mining database thing that we're talking about. Tab. The resource list, we need to make a quick modification to this, but stuff that we try to talk about: mining pools, miners, calculators, key information sites. I'm changing this whole site around right here to not just be a list of stuff, but of links. It's going to be, you know, some pictures and the key resources that we use on a daily basis when we're trying to keep track of things. You know, typical search engine stuff that you want to see when you're looking. And if you haven't gone on Twitter, I'd highly recommend getting on Twitter and just following some of the core people out there, you know, Bitcoin core people and all that. I mean, there's a lot of FUD that goes around between everybody, but at least you get kind of a heartbeat of what people are talking about. You know, and then of course our store stuff. So, and I need to enable the mining letter because we're working that too. And then of course all of our follow stuff down here. So we're trying to make this site for you guys. This whole thing is a resource to kind of grow the community and know where to go. Again, you can shop anywhere. I highly recommend to do the, you know, find the base stuff that you're looking for and do shop around, look around. If you're getting into the space, we'll go back to this and we'll wrap it up. I'm going to bring up the chat and see if there's anything else I missed from you guys. And Gandhi nuke me. Thank you for that $10 again. I was just looking to see if I missed any of them. So we'll I'm gonna wrap this up now, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I mean, I know it was kind of like meh content for the people that have been around for a little bit, but hopefully it helps folks that are new to the space. And then we'll be bringing back an update on the resource database that we're working, and we'll give you the update on all the stuff that I'm finding that I'm searching for on the Black Friday deals. There's definitely some deals out there. So if you're on that fence, the next 6 weeks or so is a good usually buying time in the space. And plus it's the winter, it's a good time to mine. Mining usually comes back usually in the winter, and get everybody in store for 2018. So come out there and see us on Discord. Tune in, share, like, subscribe. And thanks, guys.